Hello, humans. Welcome back to another episode of Awkward Solo at Work with me, your host, Emery. This week, we have a slightly different podcast today. So for the first time ever, I actually have two guests on at the same time. You guys would know by now that I'm very passionate about career, self-help, self-development, and all that good stuff like that. And so are you if you're listening. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here on this podcast. And what I particularly love about self-development is that everyone's very unique. You know, what works for you might not work for others. What is awful to some people might be just amazing for other people. And I think mentoring is probably one of the kind of the better or one of the best tools out there that you can actually use as well to get to where you want to be. So today the two guests, I have the program manager of the LGBT plus mentoring program of community business, Scot, and also Randell, who was a mentees of this amazing program just this year gone past. So welcome to the show, guys. How are you today?
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm very good. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks, Emery.
I always like to have a bit of context first. So, Randall, let's start with you. Tell us a bit about yourself, you know, what you do now, and kind of how you got involved in the program at first.
Right. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to your podcast. Right now, I'm currently managing contact center teams for AXA Hong Kong. So primarily, I deal with customer contacts, emails, live chats. But the reason why I joined the program primarily was because it was pretty random. It just appeared on LinkedIn, and I think I was on lunch break one day, and I was just like browsing through and thinking maybe this is a good idea to be part of. I'm happy to always sort of share a couple of stories from the program later on, because I think it's something that members of the LGBT community must consider as they go along through their careers.
Great stuff. What about you, Scott? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So I've been a community business for a year, and I came on basically to get the mentoring program kind of up and running. I'm from Boston originally. I lived in Toronto for 7 years before coming here, and I've been in Hong Kong for about going on 7 years now too.
Wow. And so the program actually was born during COVID. So have you guys actually met in person yet?
Yes. The first 3/4 of the program were completely virtual, or maybe even more than that. But one-on-one, I think the mentees and mentors were kind of meeting up for coffee or dinner. And then we were able to kind of meet as a group, just a few months ago.
Wow. The funny thing there, though, is that I think we had a graduation. That was the first time for us to actually see each other, like all of us. So it marked the end of the program, but it felt as if we were starting the program. So it was kind of odd, but different times.
That's such a surreal thing to hear as well. And I'm going to have so many questions about how it all works as well a bit later on. But what I always like to do kind of at the beginning of the show, is do like a rapid fire round to get ourselves a bit more warmed up. So since we obviously have two guests today, so we can do kind of one question each. So who wants to go first?
Randall.
I
was voluntold. Yes.
Okay. So Randall will answer the first one, and the next one Scott will answer. So the first question: what is your go-to song when you need a bit of motivation?
I Will Survive.
Nice. And Scott, to you now. What's your favorite meal, and describe the setting for me?
Ooh, my favorite meal. So many choices. Maybe, I take this trip with friends of mine, with my husband and friends of mine from New York. Before COVID, we went every year to Italy, to the Piedmont region, and drove around the wineries. And just basically, I don't drink, but like my friends, I'm the designated driver. And we just like eat our faces off, and pasta and truffles and cheese, and it's amazing.
Oh, that sounds like a dream. And Randall, back to you now. What was the best thing about this month for you?
This month, I went to Lantau. I was actually on leave for 3 weeks. I couldn't get out of Hong Kong, so essentially I was spending time with family, my dog, in Lantau. Airbnb through and through different spots of Lantau.
Wow. Actually, I was just at Puyol just this weekend gone, and I was thinking actually this could be quite a good place to kind of just chill for like a staycation for like a week or a week and a half, kind of use that as a replacement of a holiday.
Yeah, you should. You should. There are other places in Lantau, other points that you should also consider other than Puyo, Tai-O. There's other places there you can
Um,
discover for sure.
Amazing. And Scott, give me one thing you're excited for in the future.
Oh, excited for in the future. I'll be boring and say, the next cohort of the mentoring program.
That's what you're here for. And last two, I'd like both of you to answer both questions. So let's start with Randall first. Fill in the blanks for me. Monday is
Work from home day.
okay. And how about work is?
Work is dynamic.
Nice. And Scott, over to you now. You've got some examples for you to steal as well. Fill in the blanks.
Monday is a fresh start.
And then what is work for you?
Work is work is really interesting, and I'm really engaged, and it's nice. It's taken a while to get to this position, but yeah, I'm quite happy.
Great stuff. And after Rapid Fire, I always like to start the show with this question. What was your idea about work at the very beginning when you were just a couple of years old, when you were 3, 4, 5? What was your idea about work as a concept? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can go first. I think, work for me when I was a child was a bit different because both of my parents are actually helpers in Hong Kong. And I grew up with my grandmother back in the Philippines. So it felt as if, why does work sort of separate families or keep families apart? That was like the main question that I have as a child. Obviously, I don't really have any concept of, office work. Growing up, I was living in a small farm, and all I see is like people planting, agricultural crops and all that stuff. So that was the environment that I had growing up until maybe age 8 until I moved to high school, and that was a totally different world right after altogether. So yeah, I guess that was my view back then.
Where did you go to high school?
It's also in a small Philippine city in the central region. Nobody would probably know where it is. It's called Bacolod, which is in an island next to Cebu. So
Okay.
if anybody knows where that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did you come to Hong Kong?
About 5, 6 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty, it's been a great journey being in Hong Kong. I'm currently also living with my mom. So I'm very happy that, all those years that I wasn't able to spend time with her is that I'm currently spending time fully, with the family. Now that I'm old, because it's weird because most people would say, I really want to be independent when I am age X, right? So let's say age 18, I want to go be independent. I want to be separate from family, etc. For me, it's like the opposite way around. It's like, oh, now I'm older. I have the means. I can like bring the family back in together. So it's a totally different story, I guess.
Oh, that's nice. That's kind of like a full circle moment, a little bit, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And how about you, Scott? What did you think of work?
Yeah, I didn't think about that till this morning, and I was thinking about it. My parents both worked when I was a kid, and like neither of my parents graduated from high school, so they had a very practical approach to work. They didn't think, there was no concept of like following their passion or doing something that they loved. So it was very much 9 to 5, get it done. Don't talk about it after you leave work kind of thing. So I didn't grow up with a real clear sense of like what I wanted to do, what the possibilities were. Yeah. So it took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah. So it sounds like I think mentoring, obviously, to you guys, to your parents as well, will be even more foreign of a concept because I'm sure back then they really didn't really have those. So Scott, you actually created the entire program. Is that right in saying? Is that true? I'll let you talk.
Yes. Yes. So I inherited the basically what I inherited was like an idea and a curriculum. So every month there was a professional development series, a session with a title. And that was all I got. So it was a pretty blank slate. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with it at first? And tell me the timeline a little bit, because I'm just intrigued to know how it coincided with COVID. The question is like, did you plan it to, was it in the midst of COVID? So you kind of had a bit more straightforward knowing that it would be online, or was it kind of set for physical events and then it just kind of boom, it went into kind of virtual because you had to?
Yeah, so I started last August. I was pretty firmly, entrenched in the realities of COVID. I think we were kind of holding out hope that we would be able to do a face-to-face program. It was never intended to be a virtual program. But the more we got into the planning, we realized it was just never going to become a face-to-face program until, like Randell said, we didn't all meet up in one group until the last session. Yeah.
And we spoke about this briefly off air before. You were actually stay-at-home dad for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us how you got in, like, how did you kind of found this, and then how was that transition for you? Because that must have been quite a new thing.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. So I didn't work for 5 years. So I didn't get a dependent visa when I moved here because I was in a same-sex marriage and it wasn't legal. So one of my reasons for moving here was to kind of have a break, to do something different. And not working for a while sounded really fantastic, having worked my whole life. And my daughter, we have a daughter, my husband and I, so she was 2.5 when we moved here. So it was quite young. It was a really nice time for me to spend time with her and to bond and, just to be involved in all the daily things. But she got older and she's in full day school. So I'm really glad that the law changed and that I'm able to work. My first role was a contract at Morgan Stanley in D&I. And while I was at Morgan Stanley Community Business, where I work now, they do this LGBT plus inclusion index every 2 years. So they were wrapping up. So Morgan Stanley took part in this index, and Community Business came in to kind of do a debrief on the results and how the company did. So I met the people from Community Business in a meeting, and I thought it was really cool. Like, I really liked what they were doing. It's a really cool benchmark for companies in Asia to just see how they're doing across other industries and in their own industry. And so when I left that contract, it was a fixed term contract, I reached out to Community Business and said I would volunteer. But then, with COVID and everything else, it just never happened. And then they reached out to me when this position became available, and here I am.
Wow, that's amazing. And how about, and sorry, Scott, quickly as well. So I've spoken to you about this as well briefly, that I've been kind of thinking about the idea of getting a mentor myself, but what exactly does what does that actually mean? What does a mentor do?
Well, a mentor is basically, there's some confusion around like what's a coach and what's a mentor, and I forget the third type of coach, mentor, and something else. But I mean, what we see as kind of the benefit to the program is, the mentor is outside of your work. It's not your manager. It's not somebody that works at your company. It's a completely independent person that you can, plan long-term life goals with, career goals. And, that may not include your current company, so it's an opportunity to, like, we've had a few people in the program who were considering graduate school, excuse me, but they didn't, they weren't sure if it was practical or how to go about it. And they actually, interestingly enough, were matched with mentors who had been to graduate school, and were able to help them kind of figure out the process and figure out if it was right for them. And 2 of them did leave their jobs, and they're now in Canada in graduate programs. So, I mean, there's just a small example of, what a mentor can do, but, they're really there as just kind of a sounding board, they're not there to tell you what to do. They're there to help you figure out, your way in your career and in your life, and hopefully through their experience and their skills and just through the relationship, they'll help you kind of find your way.
Yeah. And then, so Randall, how come you got onto the programs? You mentioned just now that you were just going through your newsfeed on LinkedIn during lunchtime. Why were you looking for mentorship anyway and it came up, or was it because you saw it and then you were like, oh, this is really interesting? How did that all come about for you?
Yeah, it really just started as more of like, oh, this is an interesting program. I think let me try and see if I could be part of it. And then later on, it becomes clear, especially when they send out details as to what the program is about, the modules that they intend to introduce throughout the year. Um, and so I thought it was, I have time
Mm,
to actually commit into the program and go through that journey. And that was really just the mindset, I guess. I didn't really expect as much because again, I don't have anyone to actually ask around and say, hey, how's the program? Because we were the first ones.
mm.
So it was more like, oh, this is more like a leap of faith. I think this is interesting. Let's see how it goes. And yeah, I've met a couple of really interesting people who I am still in touch with up until this very moment. So I think the program in itself is quite a great opportunity to just connect and be able to be around people who know what you're going through,
Mm.
even if they are not in the same industry or in the same company as you are.
And what I guess what attracted you to the program at first, was it because that it was LGBT focused? That I for myself, I actually haven't really seen any programs that is so kind of LGBT plus focused before.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the factors as well is that it is LGBT plus focused. The people in the program, they're either members of the community or also allies, so it is quite open. Um, but yeah, it is quite interesting to see a mentoring program that is primarily given towards the members of the LGBT plus community. I think that in itself gives you a bit more, um, push or reason to actually be part of the program.
Mm. And how was your experience through it? Was it what you expected?
Oh, it was great. So I was paired with someone from Nielsen IQ, and we are both morning persons. We discovered throughout the entire journey, and said, you know what, let's have coffee at 7 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, so we always meet at 7 in the morning, somewhere in Central before we go to work. Uh, I think we met at least once every 2 or 3 weeks throughout the duration of the journey. But it was more like a very informal way. Like we just have a bit of a theme every
Mm,
time we sit down and say, you know what, let's talk about say personal branding, or let's talk about say um, leadership or compassionate leadership, what that means to you. Or sometimes it's pretty ad hoc, like, oh, what is it that you're going through in the office right now?
mm,
And then we're going to talk about it. It's always a give and take kind of conversation, where the mentor sort of facilitates the conversation, but at the same time, the mentee kind of shares the views that the mentor also kind of weighs in.
mm.
So yeah, it is quite an interesting dynamic between two individuals, at least in my experience.
Yeah, yeah. And that sets me up nicely to my next bit of questions. So I always like to do like a assumptions round, basically what the general belief is about the particular topic that I'm doing that episode. So it sounded like obviously 7 a.m. I think you probably get quite a special case meeting at 7 a.m. But obviously this is a bit of an extra, I guess, extra commitment for a lot of people. So the awkward turtle thinks that all mentorship program is just extra work and I just don't have the time for. I don't feel like I've been doing the same job in 3 years' time, let alone in the same industry. So why should I spend time doing this? What are your thoughts on this kind of general belief?
I think there's value to a mentorship program because it helps you see a lot of your blind spots.
Hmm.
It can be professional, personal, or whatever it is that you're going through. It really gives you a bit more perspective. Because if you are boxed in your own company and in your own circle or in your own social circle, that's all that you know. That's
Yep,
all
yep.
that's all that feeds you, and that's all that you know, and that's what you believe in. But
Mm,
if you step out of your comfort zone and kind of say for example meet someone outside of your industry, a little bit more senior than you are, they have had experiences or probably, you know, some anecdotes that they could also share similar to your situation that gives you a bit more perspective. So that's the value to that. Time is always an investment, you know. Everybody always says, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have time. But if everybody does not have time, then we're just going to be stuck doing the same cycle, the same rat race every now and then, every day. So it's just a matter of, are you willing to commit and invest your time into something that will add value to you as an individual, is the question. If the answer is no, then nobody is forcing you. But we highly encourage everyone to just say yes. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's just a matter of a leap of faith. Just go for it.
And Scott, over to you now. So we mentioned a few times now that it was the first ever kind of LGBT plus kind of focused mentor program for community business. I myself haven't really seen any other like that in Hong Kong anyway. And it seemed like, because I actually had a few friends and then it had a few people, and I saw it on LinkedIn as well, who was in the program. So it seemed like it was a really good response last year, given that it was only the first one ever. So why do you think it's important that we need to have an LGBT focused program, especially kind of focus, and why do you think it was in such high demand?
Great questions. I think, yeah, when we launched the program, we had no idea like what the response would be. And we were, you know, kind of watching our Zoom registrations like, oh, wow, you know, it's 20 people, it's 30 people for these info sessions. And we also were a little concerned that it might just be all MNCs, you know, because typically our client base is largely MNC, and there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, you know, but that's just one kind of career path, right? But we were lucky to get kind of a good range of people and industries and different roles. But I think the reason it's important is because, and especially in Asia, you know, not just Hong Kong, but we're in Hong Kong, but I come from the United States and Canada, and you know, in general, I would say the environment is a little more LGBT plus friendly. People are a little more just exposed and comfortable with the topic. Yeah. So I think it's really important that LGBT people have an outlet. You know, they have a place, they have a network, because it can be really isolating to, you know, and not everyone in our cohort is out of the closet. And, you know, that is perfectly, you know, understandable in a lot of cases. So, you know, if you're not out, like, that's very isolating, right? Like, and at least they have this group of people, you know, and every year it will grow, you know, that we want to have this support network and, you know, just a network of people who, like Randell said, like, know where you're coming from. They may not be in the same walk of life or the same industry, but you know, they can relate to you on a very basic level. Yeah.
And is there like a matching process, you know, once you sign up and then kind of you just look at the application and see, you know, who fits who best?
Yeah, so we have a matching event, and this year, this past year, it was digital, which was, as Randell can attest, it was a bit of a mess because we just didn't have the right technology for what we wanted to do. We tried to do basically like a speed meeting, speed dating.
Yeah,
format.
It sounds like it.
And it was tough to manage technologically. But the idea was for people to meet, you know, kind of like we did here, like rapid fire. I provided some icebreaker questions, but people were free to bring their own. But just to kind of meet people so you could meet, you know, 21 different mentors and ask them questions and just get a quick sense of, you know, who they were and if they were going to be a good fit for you. So after that event, we asked the mentees and mentors to give us their top 3 picks.
Okay.
And if there are any like one-to-one matches, then, you know, we consider that pretty much done. But in some cases, people said, you know, I'm perfectly happy with whoever you match me with. I don't have a strong preference. And then we do, you know, a kind of a secondary matching in the office where we, you know, look at everyone's backgrounds and their goals and their motivations and, you know, sometimes their personality styles. It really, you know, you look at the whole package.
Very nice. So is it like a typical kind of, mean, what I want to say is that what I like about particularly is that the mentors is a mix of LGBT and actually really strong allies, and I think I really like that I guess little tidbit if you like, because I've always said that LGBT kind of advocacy it should not just be about LGBT because it affects everyone. So I really like the fact that also allies are involved in this as well. So who are typically kind of the mentors and who are typically the mentees that you get applications from?
So we asked mentees to have between 3 and 10 years of experience. So they're typically, early career. We had a few. We had one woman who kind of switched careers from sports to recruiting, like you. So, it was a kind of a big career switch. So she wanted to be placed as a mentee instead of a mentor. And then we had a couple of mentors that applied as mentees. But we thought that they had enough experience and enough good experience, good skills to kind of be a mentor with some extra support. So the mentees were, we ranged from like entrepreneurs. We had people in the hotel industry, banks, lawyers.
Wide range.
We had a pretty good range. This year, we're really trying to appeal to, like myself, like people in NGOs and maybe smaller companies. It's a bit tough for different reasons to reach like local companies, but we definitely want to have a kind of a very diverse pool of people. And the mentors as well were kind of, from all different, we had people in HR and advertising. We had somebody that worked at the Equal Opportunities Commission. A good, and somebody was a career coach, and we had a whole bunch of different people.
That's amazing. Randell, you are heavily involved with LGBT advocacy work anyway, before this program. You mentioned that you are also the lead for the DNI conversation about where you work. So how would you describe, let's say, at the moment, what it looks like in the corporate world?
I think right now it's more in the corporate world. It's more like silo, I guess. It's a bit more focused on what they need to do on the given day. But DNI sometimes is a bit of a difficult conversation to initiate in various corporate sectors unless it is part of the overall strategy of the company. So you need a few brave souls to actually, bring that big banner, go around and say, you know what, let's talk about this. So I guess that's where at least my perception of corporates at the moment is that if it is part of the strategy, then that would be the focus. They would really heavily invest on it. But if it is not, then, you will need a few brave voices to actually step out there and say, you know what, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why we need programs like this. Is to actually obviously encourage more people to get in those positions and get in those kind of leadership position as well in the future. And
right, and I guess just to add on that, it's really just visibility, right? It's just a matter of being visible so that people don't forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. We're coming on towards the end of the show now. Randell, because the name of the show is Awkward Turtle, I always like to end on, what advice would you give to the turtle? Now, this could be an advice that you had in your mentoring program or before or any way you like.
My advice would be 2 words: fail forward.
Okay.
So why is this my advice to the turtle? The turtle is slow, awkward, and sometimes the turtle may face some challenges or failures, but that does not end there. That should not stop the turtle. The turtle must still walk forward, no matter how slow it can be, to get to the destination, wherever that destination may be. So that's the advice.
Oh, beautiful. So to wrap up then, Scott, tell us, can you share just some examples of exactly kind of what people should expect from the program if they're thinking about signing up, and what kind of, I guess, what the process is, where can they apply, how should they sign up, all that good stuff?
Sure. So right now we're having information sessions. So every week or 2 weeks, it's a 30-minute virtual information session where I basically go over the requirements, the benefits and timeline and all of that. Applications open October 4th. They're online. And then November, we do interviews. December, we'll make an announcement of who's in the program. And then we have our matching event. And then in January, the program proper starts. And every month we have a professional development session based on a topic. Throughout those 9 months of the program, we also have a couple of networking sessions. This past year, we had one for mentees and one for mentors. Those are in addition to the monthly curriculum. And we also ask the mentee and mentor to meet up one-on-one monthly. Randell and his mentor met more often, which is even better. We ask them to meet once a month. And in the beginning of the program, we ask people to set goals so that, that by the end of the program, they kind of can see if they've made progress. We just feel like it's better to start with an idea of where you want to go rather than, because it's only 9 months, we don't want someone to try to figure it out halfway through. But in some cases, like I said, people came in working a job and then left applying to grad school. So, there's no right or wrong answer about how to do it. But I would recommend people, we do require people to come to an information session just so everyone has the same, basis of knowledge. So I would say, go to our website. You can find the LGBT plus mentoring program there. We also have an events page where the info sessions are. Our website is communitybusiness.org. And I'm reachable through LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk about the program. What else? I think that's it.
Great. Well, brilliant. Well, it sounds like such a great program, and I'm just excited to see kind of where it goes in the next couple of years, because obviously it's just been the first year. I can see there's going to be even a bigger demand. So good luck to you guys for the next one, and see how that all goes. I think that covers it all. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories again and your experience in the program. I think this mentorship is fantastic, and it's definitely going to help a lot of people out there as well. And hopefully the people who's gone through the program will also, give their bit as well in after their experience with the program, and then so on and so forth, and that cycle going as well. And like as one of our guests has said, guys, if you're looking to really develop yourself further, we should definitely check out the program. All the information will be on the show notes, so make sure you guys go check them out in a second. My name is Emery. I've been chatting with Scott and Randell. I would love to hear which story spoke to you the most. Tell us what career you want to get into. Tell us what your passion is, or tell me, for this instance, what you're struggling with, and hopefully the mentor program can also help you as well. So don't forget to tell me who you are and possibly who you want to hear from next. All right, Awkward Turtle, over and out.